great move to more people getting out and about, people wanting holidays, people wanting to get away for a few days. And there's going to be, there's a lot of people. I think Real Estate Business today was talking about, how do we manage all of our workplaces now with everybody going to want a break? So sure, everybody wants a break. We all want a break. We all need a break. We all want to get away somewhere. It might be looking at the wholeness of that, and there'll be short little breaks. So here we come in, and let's talk about short-term rental accommodation. So many of you agents are actually, managing short-term holiday accommodation or short-term rental accommodation, as it is now referred to. And those of you who have already done your CPD for this CPD year know that it's one of the mandatory topics. And whether you're in real estate, whether you're in sales or property management or in strata, it is one of the compulsory topics that you would have studied as part of your compulsory CPD session. So, but what we've covered in those CPD sessions to date has been just about the code of conduct, because there are new rules for short-term rental accommodation, and that's what we've been talking about with the code of conduct. So in April this year, earlier this year, the government announced that there were new policies in relation to any homeowners who are actually wanting to take advantage of holiday rentals, but also around this, the laws are coming in about providing more certainty and safety for the visitors to property and to locals around those property. So now these new legislations actually come into play on the 1st of November. So pretty much a month. We're a month away from it all kicking in. So short-term rental accommodation refers to dwellings that are used by the host, so the person who is organising this, to provide accommodation in the dwelling for money. So it's a commercial basis. It's a commercial arrangement for a temporary or short-term period. It's not about having visitors stay in your home, or sometimes you can say visitors might have stayed too long, so maybe you can count the days. But this is not to do with your visitors. This is for a commercial situation. Okay, so short-term rental accommodation is often facilitated through your booking platforms such as Stays and Booking.com and Airbnb. And a lot of people refer to this as, this is all the new Airbnb stuff. So yes, short-term rental accommodation is what it's referred to. So it's a long-standing practice in New South Wales now that lots of people use these booking sites. I find it difficult to meet someone who actually hasn't used one of these booking sites. So it generally involves residential properties, and they're often also used by the owners for their own accommodation. So it's a host or a part of a property. So this new planning framework includes new policy that introduces new definitions for what short-term rental accommodation actually is, whether it's hosted or non-hosted. So if the owner is there, so the property is being hosted, the person is also in the property, or the host is not there. So it's also introducing an exempt category for hosted and non-hosted short-term rental accommodation. So that facilitates the hosted short-term rental accommodation as exempt use of a dwelling, and that's 365 days a year if the host is actually there. For non-hosted, it's 180 days in the Greater Sydney area and some nominated regional LGAs, and 365 days in other LGAs. So it provides exemption of bookings for 21 days or more from the 180 limit on the non-hosted short-term rental accommodation. So there's a whole lot of different requirements here. So if you are an agency or work at an agency where you are facilitating short-term rental accommodation, these are things you need to know. It's also, this new legislation is also introducing as an amendment to environmental planning and assessment regulations. It's introducing new fire safety standards for dwellings used for short-term rental accommodation, and offences for non-compliance with those fire safety standards. And they've created a new government run. So it's not a bad tenancy checklist run by some external agency. This is a new government run register that will ensure compliance with the fire safety standards, as well as track the limits, those day limits for short-term rental accommodation dwellings. So, it's in April 2020, the Department of Customer Service amended the Fair Trading Act, the Strata Schemes Management Act, the Residential Tenancies Act, and it all provides owners corporations with the ability to pass bylaws prohibiting short-term rental accommodation from lots in their strata scheme that are not the person's principal place of residence of the host. Okay, the changes clarify that short-term rental accommodation activities of 3 months or less are not agreements covered by the residential tenancy framework. Well, we knew that, it's just confirmed it. So what does this all mean for you as agents? Changes in technology have seen a huge rise in online booking services that have, which means it's contributed to a significant increase in short-term rental accommodation options for people. So we've all got lots of places to stay. So that's seen economic benefits flow to communities, to the actual homeowners that have empty houses in tourist areas that can be used by tourists and visitors and people using that area. So it doesn't, they're beachside, country vacations, around universities, a whole range of reasons why people use that short-term accommodation. It's also led to amenity impacts on residential neighbours and also obviously in strata complexes. So the government's approach to regulating this short-term rental is focused on the commercial arrangements where the person is given the right to occupy for up to 3 months at a time. So it's regulated through the mandatory code of conduct, which we've all been talking about in CPD up to date, and that applies to all participants. That's the hosts, the booking platforms, the agents, the visitors, everybody who's a stakeholder in this. It has a statewide planning framework in terms of those number of days and varies from for the regional LGAs, varies from LGA to LGA. And we're all very good about defining our LGAs these days, unfortunately. There's the new government mandatory short-term rental accommodation premises register and the strata scheme bylaws that restrict certain types of short-term rentals. So there's a whole range of regulations that are around this. So as I said, the CPD this year is looking at the code of conduct. It applies the minimum standards of behaviour and requirements for all participants in this. So it's from hosts through to visitors and everybody in between. There are also new disciplinary actions, obviously, that New South Wales Fair Trading can take. That's being listed on the non-compliant participants that's for visitors on an exclusion register as well. So it's there for hosts, it's there for visitors. So a whole, it's coming. We need to be aware of it. As agents, you most definitely need to be aware of all of this. Yes, it's on the New South Wales Fair Trading website. If you haven't been to CPD yet another reason why you should do that, particularly if you're doing short-term rental accommodation, because it is 1 hour of your 3-hour CPD class for your compulsory session. So guys, that's a very good reason to do that.